Hi to everybody and their neighbor. Welcome back to Gear and Gigs. I am your host, Chet Stone, with my ever-loving co-host, Trey Hawkins. Trey, glad to have you back. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good. We've got a special guest in the studio today. Brian Porter of Porter Pickups is here, and previous listeners of our show will know for sure that he is definitely one of our favorite people, as we are surrounded by guitars that have Porter pickups, all of us, all three of us. Brian, how are you doing?
I'm all right here. I'm hunkered down in the shop. Everyone's left for the day, so I'm here by myself and hanging out in the showroom here with you guys. And
in Boise, Idaho, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. We're here in Boise. Technically, we're in Garden City, but it's basically surrounded by Boise. It's this little, I don't even know, maybe 5-mile strip of road with. It somehow got itself to be a city. I don't really know, but rent is cheaper here, so that's why we're here.
Nice. Well, we're calling from Dallas and surrounding areas. And of course, for those of you just listening to this and not seeing it, we are on a Zoom call because this is during the wonderful COVID-19 pandemic that we're all suffering through. And so any audio glitches you may hear or video glitches you may see, please don't blame us, blame the fine people at the internet. So we wanted to get Brian on because he just makes some of the most, I wanted to say spectacular, but it'll sound like I'm hyping it, really, really detailed and amazing pickups on the market that we've become very fond of here at Gear and Gigs. And so we wanted to have him on to talk a little bit about the magic to us muggles.
Yes.
Now, I know Trey wanted to lead this one, and I'm going to let him. So take it away, Trey.
Oh, it's so much pressure.
I know. I tried to give it a little bit more pressure that time.
But, well, I mean, Brian, so you and I have been talking for a while and kind of just discussing pickups. I mean, a little bit of backstory for Jet and I, I stumbled across your pickups kind of accidentally. We tracked a bunch of songs for a band that I haven't released yet. And after we got done, I kind of went, hey, what did I use to track everything? And he goes, well, I don't know. Let's look it up. And it ended up being, Porter P90s and the one I emailed you about a while back that was I guess one of the first generations of the Portertron pickups.
And to be fair, you auditioned blindly, like 40 guitars before we picked on the ones you were going to use, and it just ended up being the ones with the Porter pickups. So it really was a blind ear test, and that's what he ended up choosing.
That's cool. Yeah, so that was my kind of interest in it, and then I shot you an email about doing kind of internet stuff together, and but I just wanted to kind of pick your brain about where you come from as a designer. I know you.
I just said Idaho, man. I just told you that.
Where you come from mentally as a designer or heart. I mean, it could come from either. But I know you guys started as a guitar company, right?
Yeah, technically started as a guitar company, but it wasn't really. It was mostly a hobby at that point. So my dad was involved in electronics companies, so probably got a little bit of my business, obsession maybe with that from him. He designed these little computer chips that would fit underneath the regular old light bulbs, and they would turn the light bulbs into like a 4-way dimmer, or it would actually turn a light off after a certain amount of time if you left it on. And this was kind of him and a friend's invention, and they became, it became their business, and basically. And
right.
So he had an electronics factory basically, and so I was able to go when I was in high school, and we would, sneak in at night and modify Stratocasters, and so I actually. Early on when I was able to work for him, I did a lot of soldering right away. So I always knew a little bit about soldering and knew how to kind of get into enough trouble with a soldering iron, I guess you could say. I remember just ripping apart. I had a PV Predator, and I ripped that thing apart and repainted it like zebra zigzags. And I'm just curious about how things work. And I can't read a book. I'm like a visual learner. So I got to just pull stuff apart, and I got to see how it works and see what goes into it and all that other stuff. So long story short, began modding that stuff and sort of fell in love with that part of guitar. I always liked music and just playing music. but that was sort of the part that I always enjoyed doing on the side. You know, it wasn't really about necessarily even fixing guitars. It was, I broke a lot of guitars basically. And,
Right.
and then I slowly learned how they would go back together. You know, what happens when you thankfully I had a Strat. So it was kind of like you could put whatever neck you want on the Strat.
Right.
You know, I couldn't really screw up a lot of the stuff with the Strat. But I had one of those Strats with the swimming pool route. So what I started doing was putting different kinds of pickups in the swimming pool route. And that sort of got the bug there, if you will.
Sure.
And in about 2000 or so, I took an apprenticeship with a guy here in Boise named John Bolin, who builds all the ZZ Top crazy fuzzy guitars and all those kind of guitars.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
So I spent about 9 months with him and learning a little bit of guitar stuff, kind of visual, practical stuff, and after that, it just slowly started ramping up over the course of about 3 or 4 more years. It started, getting in there and started cutting stuff, and still have a pile of worthless guitar bodies in my garage that for some reason I held on to. I'm not sure why. I should have just burned them. But again, back to that practical learner thing where I've got to get in there and I've got to make a mistake. And usually if I make that mistake, I'm probably not going to make it again, or at least I'm going to get a lot better really quick. I wish I could just read, like I said, I wish I could read a manual and then go. But that's how everything got started. Just kind of that passion that never died. And eventually it became a job.
How long you been doing it?
So I've been doing this about 12 years now, almost. So it's kind of been full time, just over 8 to 8.5, 9 years full time. So it's been really cool. It's been a fun journey. The guitars kind of died out, and then the pickups really became a job out of the guitars as the guitars kind of fizzled out. The pickups we were selling them to a couple shops and modifying stuff for friends, doing rewinds, things like that. And eventually that kind of steamrolled itself into real income. It wasn't just like, for a while there, it was just like I could buy groceries every now and then by selling a set of pickups,
Right.
And then it became a job, and we kind of did that whole, do we want to get out of the house? Do we jump into a real shop? And our first employee was actually in our garage, and we had a little space heater for him. And it was 5 degrees, in the winter, and we'd have to warm that little space heater up for the, 6 hours before he came to work, basically. And he would be in the garage building bobbins, and then I would be in a spare bedroom winding pickups. And kind of this was the beginnings of what Porter became. But we had a small house, and we had too many kids, so we couldn't really do a business. And then it was like we had to convert the pickup shop into basically into nap time room or bedtime room. And so it kind of like it morphed every single day, and it was getting out of control. We're like, we got to get out of here, we got to find a place. And eventually we did find a shop, and kind of moved out, grew up, I guess, moved out of mom's basement kind of deal, and,
Right.
And kind of grew up at that point, I guess.
Trey, do you even know what 5 degrees feels like? I'm just curious.
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah, I'm from Illinois, so I know. But he's from Florida, so he has no idea.
He has no idea.
I used to work on motorcycles in garages where, you were definitely preheating.
Yeah. And we had this little tiny space heater, and he's building bobbins by hand, building the Strat bobbins, and he's sitting there like pounding the magnets into the flat work, and it's just the hands are shaking, and we come out, do you need some hot chocolate, bro, or something like that. So we kind of this was the humble beginnings, and he has since moved on, but we're still great friends. And so we always joke about those. Do you remember when we built bobbins? And I was like, yeah.
Huddling over the soldering iron for warmth.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Can we just burn our fingers to warm them back up? So yeah, that was definitely like, okay, it's time. It was still a big leap at that point, but it was like, it's time to get out of the house. We need somewhere where we're happy to pay for a heating bill, that kind of thing.
Right.
We need a shop that we can do this work in.
And those guitars behind you, those are some of the models you guys did, aren't they?
Yeah, these are the newest. There's a long story there with the guitars. If you want to get into it now, we can. But basically, within the last 3 years, 2017, we jumped back into the guitar game. So after a hiatus of 4 or 5 plus years, we didn't build anything. we jumped back into that game just because it's always been a passion of mine. It was kind of it was the reason that Porter pickups exist, because I tried to make guitars. And basically I thought it'd be cheaper to make my own pickups for my own guitars. And turns out it wasn't cheaper. It was just a bunch of headache. And so this is sort of the journey back. This is the passion of the original passion that we're kind of just trying to go for again. So we probably built about 100 guitars in the last 3 years, and just slowly kind of figuring out what people like in different shapes. And we got a couple different models, and it's been a journey. I mean, there's been a lot of tough things throughout the history of Porter with guitars. Not only just like the first round of going for it and then kind of failing and then restarting, and here we are again trying to do this thing again alongside of this Porter pickups beast, which is now, was paying all the bills, and now we're trying to launch another sub company, I guess, if you will. So it's been a tough last couple of years for us to just absorb all of that. But we got a great crew. We got good people that have jumped on board and really helped. I really didn't want to get back into the guitar, but I felt like it's, when you got something that just kind of eats at you as a musician, you're like, I should probably learn that song, or I should probably really try to go play a gig at this place, even though maybe I'm not sure I can get into this place, or whatever it might be. Just for me, it was really about going into that. And a lot of people are like, why are you doing this? What are you thinking? And I was like, no, I have to do it. Like, this is the sole reason is I have to do it. It's kind of like that chasing the dragon, if you will. And right. I've got to figure this out. And if I can build a guitar that I'm happy with, that the customer loves, then I actually feel like I have succeeded, as opposed to, I'm in the music industry, and we're not, none of us are in this to get rich necessarily.
We were just talking about that with Travis Larson, actually. Like, we didn't get it in for money. That would be a wonderful side benefit, and we won't turn it down, but we got into it because we had to, because we just have to keep chasing music in one form or another.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what those guitars represent. I mean, it's definitely a labor of love. It's definitely very hard. It was hard emotionally to get over that hump of creating guitars again, because in the past I had a friend actually try to sue me because I couldn't deliver a guitar on time, and there's all this crazy stuff happened. I mean, you know how it is dealing with guitarists, right? I mean, it's very challenging. And so that was a point where I was really close to just hanging the whole entire thing up. Actually, we almost lost everything. We didn't really know what we were going to do. I mean, we had to sell a car, we had to sell a bunch of tools, and I've only ever done like all my income ever since getting married has been guitar related, whether it's teaching or some small amounts of playing, but mostly building and winding pickups and repairs and things like that. So I don't know anything else. And for me to like threaten to get a real job at one point was kind of weird. I think back, I just laugh at it now. I would have been back, at some point.
Right.
But really just sticking with it and just saying like, yeah, we're going to keep creating, we're going to keep innovating and designing. And now we're a full line custom shop. We can wind the pickups for your woods and for your builds that we offer. And there's plenty of people who may not be a huge fan of the designs of the guitars, and that's okay. We didn't want to build Strats or Tellys. We wanted to kind of carve our own path a little bit. And so that's what we're going to try to continue to do.
Well, that begs the question too, at least for me, is so when you're designing a model or even doing a custom build, what comes first? Are you designing the guitar for the pickup, or the pickup for the guitar, or is it just kind of a simultaneous thing where it just walks into your head fully built and you go, cool, I got to do this thing?
Yeah, sometimes it does. Like this one behind you, we'll talk about that one in a second, but usually it's for a person. So like if we're building a guitar for a customer, we're talking to them like we would a regular pickup customer that was purchasing for their Strat or for their Telly. Say, what do you like to play? What sounds are you going for? Same that we did with you, Trey, is just talking through that. How are we going to find the best match possible? I mean, that honestly is our why. That's the reason that we make pickups is inspiring people to play more and to just create music, basically. And so the pickups are made for that purpose, basically. As we design these models, they're going to fit a need and fill a purpose, and hopefully make people happy and want to. So many people have said, I'm not selling this guitar anymore, and they were about to sell this guitar and that kind of thing. So when a customer is looking at a build, we actually that was one of our things we kind of maybe had a leg up it with for a while, because I did have a lot of screw ups with the guitars initially.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to understand the relationships of the woods and the pickups, and I didn't just wind pickups just because. There was really an understanding of, okay, well, if you've got an alder Strat, it's going to be this way. If you've got a swamp ash Strat, we might need to do a different model, and that kind of thing. So really dialing in those pickups and finding those matches. We've had only a small handful of returns in 10 years. Probably I can count them on my fingers almost. Cool. And it's not like a bragging thing, because there's some situations where something's broken and they're going to send it back, obviously, but
right.
We really try our hardest to make the customer happy. We feel like that's the difference that we offer as a company, is we really do take the time to understand all those relationships and how we can best, we're not just going to sell you something. I've even told people to go buy something else because they really didn't have like a clear idea of what they wanted. So I couldn't really help them as well as possible, basically, in that situation.
That's an awesome, that's part of what I like about you guys for me personally, was having that, hey, I don't know what I need. Here's what I'm playing. Here's the kind of guitar that I'm going to put it in. And you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be, but Jet, you might be, of like the amount of manufacturers just like, oh yeah, this will work. And it's just kind of a cookie cutter, one size fits all, oh, it's an ash body. Oh, it's an alder body. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. But it's not. And I'm the type of person that cares about the specifics. And I feel like a lot of the things that we love about the brands that we grew up with, about like Fender and Gibson and all these other companies, we fell in love with the idea that this company created in the 50s or 60s. And because of manufacturing, it's gotten bigger, and you can't really do the same amount of detail. And because it's music, that comes out in the final product. If there's not a certain level of attention to detail or tailoring to the specific musician, like, it's just gonna be different, or in some cases missing something. So that's really, really cool that it's a total, from the top down, and just the ability to say, hey, maybe because you can't explain it to me well, maybe this isn't the right time to do a custom build. Because I've had custom guitars that I didn't really know what I wanted, and not necessarily by any fault of their own, like they didn't know how to help me figure it out. And I got a guitar that I was less than thrilled with. And that's just the worst feeling, when you wait for like 6 months to a year and you get the guitar and you're super excited and you play it and you just can't bond with it. So that's really cool that y'all are doing that, and to that degree, and can at the scale, because I know it's kind of from a business standpoint, kind of a knife blade sometimes of doing enough production to warrant the business, and doing it in such a way that makes you and your customers happy at the same time.
Yeah.
Two Rock is like that. They just flat refuse to ramp up production, but because of that, everybody knows, like, man, these are like the coolest amps, and so I'm willing to wait 46 weeks to get an amp.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to ask too, and I don't mean to just keep throwing darts at you, but talk to me about the Ricochet.
I was going to ask that too, actually.
For people that don't know, this is like one of the coolest, most unique designs in an industry where there's not a whole lot of room for unique and new.
Yeah. So it was literally just one of those. I want to say it was like a in the middle of the night idea to make it sound really cool, but I don't remember. So it was one of those, just like, I literally was like, I was a little bit frustrated with the limitations of the space that we have to work with. Sometimes in a pickup, it's like, how many different variations on humbuckers and P90s and Strat pickups do we have out there, and what else is there? What else can we do? So similar, I think, Trey, you have the wide ranges, right? Yeah. So similar with those, we didn't decide to go after a specific clone or anything like that. We decided to kind of put our own take on those with Alnico rod magnets. And so with the Ricochet, it's like, well, what can we do in that humbucker casing? Because there's a ton of humbucker guitars out there, but not everyone actually wants a humbucker at the end of the day. a lot of times customers are talking to us and I'm like, you're actually describing a Strat, or you're actually describing a Jazzmaster, what you really want.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got this, SG or whatever, and that's the platform. And how do we make this thing sound different? How do we make it sound not muddy or whatever it's doing right now? So that was the goal and the tone. Obviously in the visual aspect, the Ricochet is unlike anything else. It's a true triangle coil. There's an arcing magnet pattern for the neck, and then it's an opposite for the bridge. So it looks kind of like an oval, if you will, when you have both pickups together in a set. We also offer them in a grill look, so it looks like faders on a mixing board kind of thing.
I love it. Really look. That's a cool one.
Yeah. It was really just an idea that I think what I had is I had a bunch of, I don't remember if this is how it came up, but we have a bunch of like little brad pins in the guitar side of the shop, which are used for if we're positioning a maple top like on a piece of mahogany, we'll pound in the brad pins to help locate that maple on the center line so it doesn't wander off when when you glue it up. It's going to kind of swim a little bit as you try to clamp it. So basically those are locator pins. And then at that point I took some of those and actually took a piece of swamp ash and just started, like, I pounded them out in that pattern. I'm like, what if we did a triangle coil and literally just pounded that out and I put some rope around it. So I put some actually string that we put on our telly bridges just to see like what it would look like. I mean, that would be cool if we could do that pickup and actually make it sound good. So there's been plenty of pickups that have been weird ideas in my head that have never seen the light of day because they sounded terrible. And there's been some that honestly, like, there was a few points where we released some pickups that we actually killed over the years because they didn't sound like we wanted them to. We couldn't quite get them there. The Ricochet was a pleasant surprise. So we have already an H90, which is a humbucker size Almaco rod P90. So it's kind of like a mini Jazzmaster. So we basically took that straight, magnet platform and we just kind of shifted everything up in the design platform. And we cut all our own flat work and all that stuff. So we literally designed and prototyped it and wound it within 2 days' time.
Wow.
So we put it together, we wound it, we threw it in a guitar, and we're like, man, this thing sounds really cool. And we weren't sure with the magnet placement under the strings how it would sound. It sounds really, really good. We put it in an SG, and this was like an Epiphone SG, just like kind of the run-of-the-mill, really kind of like flubby sounding SG, basically.
Right.
And that thing had the most telly spank that I've ever heard out of an SG. So we're like, we're on to something here. Let's make that bridge pickup and see if that one actually sounds good or not. And it did. And so what the resulting tones are actually kind of in between like a Strat or a Jazzmaster in the humbucker casing. So you can really clean up a humbucker guitar with the Ricochets. Obviously, if the look part of it is really important, that's going to turn some heads. You're going to get people asking, what is that thing?
Right.
It's definitely our most unique pickup that we have. There's some other things in the fire too. They're offshoots of that, but they're not on paper yet, so I can't really talk about them.
Right.
When I first saw the Ricochet, I thought two things. I thought, I wonder if it sounds like a D-Armand, if you remember. Well, I'm sure you do the old D-Armands, yeah. And then I thought, I wonder if it sounds like the pyramid pickup that Gibson did in the Flying V2 for a very short time. If you remember those were also triangular shaped. The whole pickup itself was. And I don't know enough about the pyramid pickup to know if they do sound similar or if they have any of the similar characteristics, but maybe you do.
Yeah, as far as this one goes, I mean, it really is just a single coil that's been, I think of my kids playing Play-Doh or something. It's like you just kind of like form shape the thing until it looks really weird, and then you see if it works, basically. To my knowledge, there's not a triangle coil out there on the market that puts the coil in a completely different spot in your pickup, as opposed to like, you've got two side-by-side coils on a humbucker, and you've got just a regular single coil with one big fat one. So that kind of changes the sonic field and also just gets you a little bit different translation of each of the strings. So it does sound very unique. People are putting it in all sorts of kind of guitars, in Les Pauls, SGs, 335s, Tellys. We just posted on our Instagram page a loaded pick guard with the Ricochets in it. So all sorts of crazy stuff.
It's a visual image. It's very cool.
Yeah. And the nice thing in that, I mean, for us, really, it's like we don't release anything that doesn't sound good. That's really like it's got to have that purpose, like I
Right.
talked about before. And it actually does really sound good. It's not for everyone. It's a low whine pickup. It's super clean, but if you got a muddy guitar, I mean, it really cleans that up.
Well, an
It's
SG is
not,
a good example of a muddy guitar. Those Epiphone
yeah,
SGs can definitely be awful dark.
yeah, for sure.
I got to give you kudos for a guy who's been in it for a decade or a little bit over to have spread yourself so wide into all the different areas of pickups is unusual. You don't see a lot of established manufacturers delving into Filtertron-esque things or that new designs that like you're talking about. So that's really cool that you didn't just do, hey, we're single coils, we're tellies, we're struts, we're humbuckers. You're willing to go into some of the more esoteric things where I bet you get a lot more passion sometimes from the people that are playing them, because a Filtertron guy like myself and Trey, we get pretty excited about any sort of a Tron pickup of any kind.
Right. Yeah, and I think we always wanted to, balance the staying within some of the popular categories. We didn't want to just create these crazy one-off things all the time, because not only are they can be very cool, but we're trying to serve the regular guitar player. So we'll design some crazy stuff here and there for our own guitars, sometimes for a custom build thing, but really for us, staying within that wheelhouse. So if you come to us with a humbucker guitar, and we've got a huge page of models. We've got, we've got a humbucker size Tron. We've got the wide range. We've got all sorts of different wines of humbuckers. And then we've got the Ricochet and the H90, P90 in a humbucker case, things like that. So our philosophy has always been about like, let's try to work within, the Strat, Telly, Les Paul field for the most part. But we do like to jump out every once in a while. Like I love our mini humbuckers. There's just not a lot of mini humbucker guitars out there.
Right.
But that's kind of always been our philosophy, and it's kind of helped us, I think, survive in crazy times, just because we do kind of stick to a lane, but we do like to throw a few curveballs in every once in a while, because I mean I don't want to just keep building the same stuff either. I mean, I gotta like keep scratching these different itches and just try stuff and see if it sounds good and move on. And now that we have our own guitars to kind of just test stuff in, we often release these guitars with, they've got a custom wind inside the guitar that's not been ever in existence. And it gives us a chance to just try it,
cool.
See if we like it, and we can always throw it out and put something else in there.
Right.
If it sounds terrible, we're not putting it, we're not selling it to someone and then they want their money back, I guess, at that point.
Right.
Do you have any gold foil pickups?
We do have we just do the gold foil like a beauty ring kind of deal. So we'll make a gold foil version of any of our other models. So basically under the hood, and then we can make sure the tone is what you want. We don't have any true gold foil construction pickups, but
you guys put such care into the cosmetics of it too, which I really like. The aesthetics of the pickups are really unique. I mean, I've seen some with, it looks like mother of pearl tops or abalone tops and wood tops and engraved tops and all kinds of cool stuff. Besides sounding amazing, they're really visually striking, some of them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're always trying to push the limits on that. We've got a nice capacity laser. We can do artwork. I can do your kid's face on a set of pickups if you really want to buy a set, that kind of thing. I'll show you this one behind for those on the podcast. I'm not going to be able to see this, but this is burnt chrome on our Portertrons there.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so we even burnt the rest of the hardware. Looks pretty awesome.
That's cool.
But just kind of like continuing to come up with really different stuff, and especially on some social media things, there's a lot of just general noise right now. And if you can do something to catch people's eye, maybe they'll visit your website, or maybe they'll just ask you more, or send a message and say, what's going on with that?
Right.
So we can't just post like pictures of, Strats with white pickup covers all day, because that's going to be super boring, and people are going to really want to know, you got to do something like that to kind of, as a business, I guess you're casting your rod in the water and seeing if you can catch something, basically. And so we're trying to do that, but we really don't just stop at the look part. We're always concerned about the sound, and I think honestly that's been one of those key foundation things from the start. We're always trying to make sure, is it going to sound good? If we say it does this on the website, it really does, and instead of you know, especially like in our industry, like the PAF guys. I mean, we call some customers PAF guys because they've got this like, you know, I read it on the internet kind of thing, and it must be true, and it must be only this way, and if it's not this way, it actually was garbage and it's worthless and it'll never sound worth anything. And I tell the story of I had a customer one time, and he was arguing with me about the maple spacers in our PAFs and if they were Eastern or Western maple in the spacers. And for those that don't know, the spacer is just holding up the slug coil on a humbucker. It doesn't do anything else other than just literally keep the slug coil from collapsing on one side of the pickup. And so it was a deal breaker because it wasn't Eastern maple. So.
Well, this is Texas, where we care about whether your saddle frame is made of juniper wood or you know, whatever. So we understand that.
Yeah. So they care about tone wood in saddles too, I guess. Huh?
I guess.
Yes.
Yes, I guess they do.
Resonance and in the saddle.
Yeah. Hey, great name for an album, by the way. Resonance in the Saddle. I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, I should say that the guitars that we talked about here in the studio that Trey used on the recording he was talking about are the two guitars out of all the ones we have that Trey hates the most. He visually hates them, doesn't like really playing them, really gets disgruntled every time he picks them up. And as soon as he plays and hears that Porter tone, he's happy and content, and he'll play the whole track and then put the guitar down immediately as soon as possible. Because the sound of the pickups really is the thing that sold him on the guitar. It wasn't the guitars at all. I mean, they kind of had to like oversell themselves with the tone to make up for the fact that he hated the guitar so much.
I'm glad we could like rescue those for you.
Really did, yeah. Well, I'll never get rid of them, and it's purely for the tone. It's not for the looks, that's for sure.
That's cool. That's awesome.
And that's the kind of the next question I have. Since you build guitars and the pickups, you know, like you were talking about, kind of the internet warriors that have the opinions on what makes an electric guitar tone. I have my opinions. I know Jet has yours, but I'm curious from your perspective and being a little more unique about it. What matters the most in the tone of an electric guitar?
Yeah.
Or can you separate them?
No, I think I mean, the tone is super important in the electric guitar. People will say it doesn't matter. And I kind of cross over in a way because I know that I can make a really dead sounding guitar sound pretty good with the set of our pickups. I know that I can do that. But you know, there's certain guitars that just have the magic. They've got the sound and the resonance. Really, to me, resonance is the most important factor. Mm-hmm. So I do this really weird, you'll have to hang with me on this one, but I do this really weird test with guitars. And I want you guys this is homework, okay? I want you guys to go home and try this. Your chances are your most resonant guitar is probably going to be one of your favorites. You may know that off the top of your head, which one's the most resonant, and it may not be your favorite, but I usually play like a G chord or an E chord, and I'll strum it, and I'll actually turn the guitar over while I'm kind of holding this. You have to imagine this. I'm doing it in the air, but then basically by the time you get that guitar, the backside of that guitar up to your ear, if it's still ringing, that's a good sign that it's pretty resonant, right? Because by that time that you take it up and turn it all the way around, so chances are like some of those Les Pauls you got, or maybe some of the set neck guitars should be still ringing. If they're not, that's not a good sign at that point. But even the bolt-on guitars can have that kind of resonance. So really, like, to me, it's like a magic combination. When you got a super resonant guitar and it's just missing something, then we know we can plug in some pickups that really will kind of give you that last 15 to 20% basically. So I really like, I mean, we've played some really nice high-end guitars that have, you know, super high grade tone woods, and they've been kind of flat. Right? Well, I think all of us has played some that have been flat. So we're really looking for, I mean, we really do sometimes tap on pieces of wood and see how long it rings. We don't get super crazy with that. I'm not really into like a lot of like mystery stuff with that. I just look for a nice piece of wood. If it resonates a long time, I'm not doing any crazy voodoo stuff, obviously, but I'm looking for, does it ring out? I mean, honestly, like if you've got a, you know, made in Mexico Strat that rings forever, that's probably going to be one of your favorite guitars once you get a new set of pickups in it.
Right.
Change the electronics and all that stuff. So it's really about the voice. The pickups are only accenting basically what the guitar's doing as it vibrates, and not just the strings. I mean, it's the whole deal.
Mm.
So I think it's really important. Just resonance. Long story short, resonance for sure.
Well, that's interesting though, because a lot of electronics manufacturers and pickup manufacturers and internet warriors are firmly in the camp of it's all in the pickups, it's all in the electronics, and you could put it on, a cinder block and it wouldn't matter. And I've always thought a lot of it is the guitar wood. So that's interesting. You think so as well?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Like I said, there is some duds of guitars that do sound pretty good once you change out some of the pickups.
Right.
But they don't really become this like, I never want to sell this guitar kind of deal.
Right.
Like if it's got the resonance and you got the sound that you want, chances are you're going to play longer. If you're strumming a chord and you're feeling that chord up against your belly when you're playing, or you're feeling the guitar vibrate on the back of your palm as you strum, there's nothing like that when you find a guitar like that. So I encourage people if they're trying to find guitar that they want to upgrade, just go with the most resonant one in the shop. If you're going down to Guitar Center or you're going down to your local music shop, make sure you go through every single guitar and buy the one that rings out the longest. The store owner is going to think you're crazy, but that's okay. Just wait and figure out which one rings out the longest, and that's the one you want, because instructions can be good.
That makes me
say, as someone.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, as someone who works in a shop, if I saw somebody doing that, I just like, man, my guy, like that's awesome. Because it's like all we do are custom instruments. So if it's not resonant, then we've done something wrong specking out the guitar for the showroom, or the manufacturer has, and they want to know like immediately. Like if we get a dud, we'll call them and be like, hey, this company whose name I don't want to mention, this isn't, what y'all normally do. And they're like, all right, cool, send it back. But 9 times out of 10, if it's a super high-end custom guitar that somebody's put the kind of time like that you guys do into stuff, you can pick up 3 or 4 and they're all, just as good. One just might speak to you a little bit more, but
yeah, definitely.
It makes me want to put a set of Porters in an Aristides, because even though they're not wood, man, you can feel that against the belly vibration thing. It rings for a really long time, and I'd be curious to see what that sounds like now.
Yeah,
those are some of the more resonant ones.
That'd be a good test case, just because you're going to want to, like, it's all about at the end of the day, we want people to be inspired and play their guitar longer. We realize like we're all like now, especially in this time right now, where like, what is the future of music? I mean, we're all like, okay, when are the shops going to open? When can we go to concerts again? What is that going to look like? And
right.
It's just crazy right now. And so many people have been really just hanging on their guitars the last, 3-4 weeks and just playing. And I think it's really cool. I feel like, a lot of people are turning off the news and they're just going and playing their instruments. And, I'm hoping that's a resurgence of love for the guitar again. Not that it ever died or went away, because I don't believe that. But I'm hoping that really becomes like a strong thing in the future. Just people like, man, we had a guy today that bought a pickguard for his brother who lost his job. I mean, just cool stuff like that, where it's like, man, they like, people are hurting, and music is bigger than a lot of stuff. And so we're happy to be a small part of it. I mean, I always wanted to be the rock star on stage, but now I just make stuff and send it in the mail. But then every once in a while, people will be like, man, I really, really appreciate you doing this. And so that's the fun part for me. I mean, that's more rewarding than a paycheck for sure.
Well, if nothing else, there's a lot of woodshedding going on right now. So by the time we get out of this thing, there should be a lot better guitar players and bass players. And of course, the DJs, they probably are kind of hating this, because what are they going to do? They got to wait around for the clubs to open. So they're really stuck. But we can at least record and play and learn and work on our guitars. And it's a good time to customize a guitar.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've seen an uptick in web traffic, and which is kind of cool. I mean, obviously everyone's stuck at home, and so they need to do something with their guitar. And people trying to learn and really, I always encourage people just to go for it. Well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. And And, I'm pretty much like, well, I never knew how to do any of that. And here I am trying to run this beast now because I just kept trying, and
Right.
so I think that even if you never become, it never becomes a job. It's just something that your buddy may need you to solder at some point. If you know how to solder, you can help them out, fix their guitar. You can, put pickups in. You can save a few bucks by knowing how to put your own pickups in instead of paying a tech to do it. For instance, so things like that. As we all take this time to learn a little bit more, it's definitely important.
What that was a terrible segue, but what? It's like, well, cool. So moving on.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Cool. No, Jet and I, we always end up getting into these kind of philosophical discussions about music when we don't even mean to, because it always comes back to that. For pretty much everybody we've ever talked to on the show, or just friends that we have and things like that, which is just, again, I've worked in multiple industries, I have a background in business, and nobody talks about the kind of stuff in business like musicians do, or at least artists do. That there's a love that kind of permeates through everything, and that just, I always keep coming back to. It's really, really cool to know people that feel the same way, and I feel like this is just kind of I think we mentioned it with. It was either Seven Horse or Travis, that it just kind of happens naturally this way. You don't really have to have a super, social disposition, which I definitely don't have. Like
said the host of the show.
Yeah, said the host of the show. When we first started talking about doing the podcast, I was like, oh yeah, let's not do. I don't want to see my face. Nobody else wants to see my face either.
Right.
But it's been just the coolest experience to talk with everybody, especially in a time, like you said, where things are weird, things are uncertain, and everybody has just kind of shown, I think, the better part of humanity. There's a lot of bad, but the majority, I think, that we've seen has been really, really good.
I was telling a non-musician friend of mine today, via text, about one of the things that I really like about being a musician is that sense of community, the brotherhood, that, and I was trying to describe it to him. And as a musician, you know what that is, but as a non-musician, you don't. And I was like, well, I was into motorcycles and I was into Harleys and I used to build bikes. And so I was very much in that world. And there's a real brotherhood of Harley riders and Mike riders and that kind of thing. And it's similar to that. And both Trey and I are military brats. And so we know what it's like to have that sort of sense of community in the military. But once again, it's different. And I've been trying all day to kind of put my finger on it. And just now when you were talking about that, I came up with it. The thing about musicians and people that work in the industry of music is everybody knows you could be doing something else. And there's a good chance, unless you're a big star, that you could be making more money outside of the music industry, perhaps with your skill sets or your technical know-how or what have you, or your discipline or whatever you have that you're offering in the music world. But it's the fact that you know that everybody you talk to is following their passion for the most part. And that's like an artist, you're an artist, even though you're a technician and a builder and an engineer, you're doing it because it's your passion. Like you said, you have to build these guitars, whether you should be or not, and that's something that I think all of us, even though we all do different things with our passion, can respect, because at least you're following your passion. You're not following the almighty dollar or, what your dad did, you're not working in that factory. You're sneaking in and doing something different.
Right. Yeah. And it really is that, you're right. That's kind of like, as I've talked to artists and even major touring bands, it's just weird. I mean, they're not necessarily, the major guys are not really thinking about the finances right now. For now at least, but they're not really concerned about it. But they're like, man, this is really weird. I'm used to being gone every spring. I'm used to being gone every summer. And am I going to be gone? And, I'm not used to seeing my family at this point in the year, basically. And so these guys are like, well, what do I do? How do I figure this out? And even these smaller artists are like, well, I gotta, bars aren't allowed to be open for a while. So what am I going to do? And, they made their living, maybe not a lot of money, but they had enough gigs to kind of afford the apartment. And so, a couple trips to Taco Bell a week. And that was their life. And they loved it. They would rather have that than something else. And, we're, like you said, we're all in that boat. We're all trying to figure out how to navigate this situation that we're in right now as an industry. There's never been a point where there hasn't been concerts for a 2-month stretch. There's never been a point where music stores have been closed, and we're all forced to figure out what this curbside thing might look like for a store. We closed our showroom that I'm sitting in here and just kind of working in the back basically. And that's been okay, but it's also like, I really love the fact that someone could walk in and buy a guitar or buy a set of pickups. And that was an awesome thing to happen during the day. So it's definitely been a stretch on the passion, because you're like, this is like kicking my butt. And sometimes your passion really kicks your butt and you're like, I don't know why I have to keep, stumbling through all this stuff sometimes. Or why do I have to, stay up late and make all these tough decisions about the future of our business. And if I keep employees or if I let some people go, and, it gets pretty real at times. And you're like, I just want to play guitar. I just want to have fun and make guitar stuff. And, at the end of the day, doing this also, the rest of the real life stuff gets lumped into it, for better or for worse. But it's always better because it's still guitar. I'd rather be doing this, of course.
Of course.
Well, everybody working in a music store would much rather, I shouldn't say everybody, but most of them would much rather be out playing an instrument, but being surrounded by them is way better than being surrounded by anything else. I used to work in music stores as well. And I ran a chain of music stores in the Midwest, and the owner of the chains used to tell me that to maximize the income for the store, I shouldn't love what I sell. I should think about it like a conduit salesman thinks about his sales. He doesn't wake up in the morning thinking about conduit and how much he loves it. He thinks about how much he needs to move, what kinds he needs to move, and he goes out and promotes those. And I would tell him, that's great, but the people that are buying from me are not thinking that way, and I'm not thinking that way, and I don't want to have to translate my passion down to brass tacks and try to sell it. I'd much rather just tell them what I'm excited about and let them get excited too. And that's always worked out real well. And that's the kind of store Trey works at, where they don't sell you anything. They just tell you about stuff, and then you go off and get yourself all fired up about it.
Yeah. The hardest part of my job is just having all the information stored, because we're dealing in higher end custom instruments. So pretty much every guitar that I have to sell is different in some way. So it's not like when I was working at GC where I was selling the same Mexican Fenders and Les Pauls and everything, where I go, it's 2017. Okay, cool. So this is what's on all of these.
Right.
Whereas now it's like, oh, well, we spec'd that one out back in July, and that one has a maple top with an ash body with a roasted maple neck. And it's just the level of detail. I mean, the customers have kind of gotten used to the fact that I'll just pull up a PDF on my phone that I have stored of all of the different specs and everything. But yeah, you can't think about musical equipment like selling conduit. It's just not possible. Not and be good at it.
Right.
I mean, I've only run across one guy that I used to sell stuff with that he came from selling corrugated metal buildings.
There you go.
And he's one of the best salesmen I've ever known. But when it came to guitar, he just completely shut that off and went, "Cool, man. Do you love it? Cool. Let's ring it up." As opposed to, well, I need to sell you this and you that and you this and you that. It just doesn't work. And that actually really leads into one of my favorite questions that I like to ask people is what, two-part question. What is your favorite pickup for you personally? And what inspired you to, like, what musician or artist would you consider your biggest inspiration? Because it doesn't matter that you're a builder or technician side of things. At some point you heard something and went, oh my gosh, I have to be involved in this.
Yeah.
So what are those for you?
Yeah. So pickup wise, I mean, I'm supposed to say I like all of them.
Sorry.
I really do like all of them. I mean, we actually killed a pickup earlier this year, and it wasn't necessarily because I didn't like it. It's just that we made something that actually suits the needs better.
Right.
I really like the mini humbuckers, honestly. Like I just love a good neck pickup. I'm always a sucker for neck pickups. If I can find a good clean neck pickup, I'll actually like stay on there almost all the time. Just because I just love the sound of that, the neck pickup more than anything else. So yeah, probably it would be the mini humbucker, or we have a blender humbucker, which is kind of a hybrid humbucker, kind of a hybrid between our Anthem PAF and our classic lines. It's actually both coils are in one side of the humbucker, so it's kind of it is a true hybrid kind of design. Cool. So different wires, different winding patterns, and it's got an Alnico 2 magnet, so I just kind of like the little smoother sound of the Alnico 2.
Right.
And then as far as inspiration, definitely Stevie Ray Vaughan is probably number one by far. So I kind of grew up starting to like guitar in the 90s, which was like the Green Days, Nirvanas, even into like Bush and some of the, kind of grungy punk-esque kind of bands. That's what I first started listening to, because that was what was on the radio at that time.
Right.
And then my friend showed me Jimi Hendrix, and he's like, "You gotta listen to Jimi Hendrix. He's so cool." And at first I didn't really like Hendrix. I don't know what it was. It was just like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then I heard, I think it was probably Voodoo Child. So Stevie Ray's version of Voodoo Child was like, okay, whatever that is, I need to listen to it like 30 times in a row. Right. Something just like assaulted my brain, and I need to just like work this out a little bit. So coming from like 4-chord wonder bands to Stevie Ray, sort of bluesing your face off, basically, I was like, what is that? And so that was my first, like, I can say like, looking back, I can say, well, that was guitar tone kind of slapping me in the face, basically.
Right.
Not that the other stuff wasn't good guitar sounds. It was a lot of distortion and not much else.
Right.
And which isn't bad, but at this point, like, this was something that just kind of like literally knocked me off my feet. Like, what is this? And so I actually went through the Stevie Ray channel and kind of went back to Hendrix and started liking Hendrix more, and kind of worked from Stevie Ray all the way backwards to, whether it was Albert King, or even like getting into Clapton because of Stevie Ray, which was kind of weird. And then kind of like moving into some of the Stevie Ray prodigies like Johnny Lang and Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and some of those guys, just kind of like, oh, because I heard Stevie Ray and I didn't know that he had died. And so that was like I was devastated. I was like, man, I got to go see this guy. Who is this guy? And then it's like, literally just like, it just totally sucked. And I think this was like, mid 90s probably, when I first kind of discovered that, like, just, through a friend. And so my music career or taste or whatever you want to call it was super random. I mean, I kind of went down the Stevie Ray rabbit hole, and then, oh, well, who did he play with concerts with? Who did he, oh, there's this record with him and Albert King. And then there's, all these different things. So kind of blues was my first like real love, I guess, with the guitar. Because at that point I wasn't really all that serious about playing guitar. And then all of a sudden I was just like, I got to figure out how to play like that, and never quite got there, but that was kind of the inspiration. And I all of a sudden I just started playing more guitar than I ever have because of that. And so that was what opened up all of this stuff. Honestly, it was just like, I had to get a Sunburst Strat, a few years later, because there's like Sunburst Strats are so cool. But then I got a really shiny one, and I didn't want to make it look like, Stevie Ray's guitar, obviously, because I think my mom would have killed me at that point, probably. But I,
it's called relicking, Mom. You don't know.
Yeah. Someday it'll be worth like 6 times as much. I promise. Yeah.
Wouldn't we be all upset to find out Stevie Ray had actually like personally reliced it in his garage and that wasn't real wear? We'd all be like just forever destroyed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the rabbit hole, and I can really point to that moment of like the inspiration part of it, and knowing that like hopefully we can do that with people's guitars, is like, we want you to we want you to keep playing
Right.
longer. And we all have these stories of the gear that we kind of gave up on too soon, right? We sold a piece of gear that we're looking back and we're like, why did we sell that? That's such a cool amp, or that's such a cool guitar. And we gave up on it, whether it was like a trend at the time or whether it was whatever reason, maybe we had to sell it. But it was just one of those things where you go back and I wish I had that still. I wish I could sit down with that that Blues Deluxe Fender amp that I had and it just jam on it for a while, because I bet it sounded way better than I thought maybe I needed a Mesa like super Tremorverb or something like at that point, like, oh, maybe I should have stayed with that, so that kind of that interesting journey as a gear consumer as well.
We should use that as a podcast episode, the gear that got away.
Oh
yeah.
I got so much gear that I've had to sell, having kids, right? It's like, so I have one kid I should have named Sir, and another kid I should have named R9, and stuff like that. But it's okay. It's I'd do it again if I had to, obviously.
Sure. Well, do you have kind of a white whale of guitars that either you could get back or you would kind of aspire to, or because you're a builder, you would just make it for yourself?
Yeah, there's a lot of guitars I don't really want to make. And that's like, I don't really want to make the Strat or Tele. I've made them before. But part of it is just kind of that, like, I've always wanted a 70s Les Paul Deluxe with mini humbuckers, the gold top where it is turning green.
Yeah.
That's kind of been that like super gas guitar that I have always wanted. And it's just one of those deals where it's like, they weren't that expensive when I first started getting a guitar, but it was like way too much money. And now it's the same deal where it's like, do I really want to spend $3 or $4 grand on this guitar that probably needs definitely a full setup and probably new frets and all this stuff. But I love the gold top and I love the minis, like I said before. And I really like that look on a Les Paul for some reason. And I did have a really nice Tom Anderson Cobra, had to sell a couple of years ago, that I'd love to get back at some point, because it's just a sweet. I love Tom Anderson guitars. They're just made so well and super inspiring, their fretwork and all that stuff. And so it is kind of nice to go and play something else and not. I do take my own guitars home for homework kind of thing, but sometimes I take them home and I'm like, I just want to see this thing go out the door. It's like, it needs to sell. I don't want to bring it home anymore. And it's probably healthy to have a collection of other guitars, not just our own, of course.
Well, I know as a songwriter, for me, like I'm always super jazzed about what I create most recently. And then as soon as I'm done and I move on to the next thing, I'm like, okay, but that was nothing compared to my next, thing that I'm going to do. But I find myself constantly in the state of never being 100% satisfied with what I produce, at least on the back end. Do you find that that's the case? Not necessarily as a diminution of the guitars, the pickups as a product, but do you feel like that kind of pushes you forward to always want to do better, or is it just kind of something where you go, no, I'm pretty damn good at everything I do?
No. The guitars more specifically, just because it costs so much money to build out the guitar shop, and all the pickup stuff has happened over time. We've got just so much equipment and so much, basically building a guitar from scratch. It definitely was one of those things where we're trying to just continually take the next step and doing new designs and new variations of existing designs. And yeah, you're right. It's one of those like, okay, what's next? Even though you should probably take time to celebrate what you've done in a sense, and you can't be satisfied. You can't ever stop. I don't think any of the great builders in our industry have ever stopped or ever really been satisfied. I think a lot of them do appreciate where they've been. I think you can see that in like Taylor or PRS or some of those guys there, that they always they do remember all the stuff they had to go through to get to that point. And they don't forget that, but they're like, we're not satisfied with where we're at now because we want to continue to push forward. And that's the reason that I think their companies have become strong and become, relevant, and you don't see a lot of issues that other companies maybe have, because they don't really lose sight of where they've been, and maybe they're not answering to as many investors as some of the other companies are. I don't know what the I don't know what the factors are, but the passion is still there from the guy at the top, and
right.
And that's really what it's all about. If you're writing songs, you want to continue to like try to beat the last song, right? You don't want to be the one hit wonder band,
right.
And you got these guys that they're real old and they're still playing that same song that they wrote, in the 70s and still touring, but they haven't really, had any great songs since then, kind of deal.
Well, I know that's something that Paul Reed Smith and Tom from Tom Anderson that you mentioned, that they've both articulated in one way or another, that their best guitar is the one that they're making currently. Mm-hmm. That even though they love the guitars that they've made, they go, yeah, but I know so much more now than I did then, that I can take something that was good before, that I was happy with, that was the best that I could make at the time, and now make it even better. So I liked that answer.
Yeah, that's the sign of somebody that's continuing to improve their art and think about what they've done and tweak and modify and grow, and not be caught up in self-congratulations. And that's awesome, because you're right. Those are the companies that flourish and go on to do amazing things, and occasionally do breakout things where you're like, where did that come from? And it's because in the background for 10 years, they've been thinking about this one thing, and out it comes. If you were going to, if somebody's out there thinking, I need some pickups for my Strat, okay, and they're thinking, obviously all the standard DiMarzio, Seymour Duncan kind of brands, why should they consider Porter over those?
Yeah, so we always never consider a direct comparison. I mean, that's always just kind of been a value of ours, is like, we're not going to say buy ours because these are so bad and whatever. I know that's not what you're asking. I'm just kind of clarifying that. Yeah. Just because for us, it's like we're trying to fill a purpose and a need, and we really are creating those models, like I said before, to fill that need. And our goal is to be the most helpful pickup company out there. That's really what it boils down to. If you go to our website, we have a form called the Pickup Chooser, and basically, if you click a link on the top of our homepage, you can see the Pickup Chooser there. It's not an auto-generated type thing. It's literally they fill out a form, and one of us will call them or email them back with a personal response. So we take time to look at it. Now, I'm opening myself up, like you talked about customer stuff before. It's like you're opening yourself up to, there's a section of tell us about your gear. And sometimes we get many short story novels, well, I've got this pedal and it connects with this cable to this pedal. And then let me tell you the rest of my 24, pedal chain, right? So we're opening ourselves up to that. But at the same time, they fill out this form, and it's actually a condensed version of what I would do if I were talking to one of you guys in person.
Right.
And so they fill this form out. We get this form and we actually go through it. And within a couple models, we basically have it narrowed down. So they'll email us and say, I've got this 335 and I really want to go for this kind of sound. And usually I'll say, okay, you want this set or this set? Go listen to the sound clips. Tell me what you think. And then we'll go from there. So that's been a real big push in the last couple of years, is we kind of got to that point where we're like, what are we about? How are we actually going to be helpful instead of just talk about it? How are we going to take action? Right. And this was a way to condense that information. At the end of the day, it really does save us a lot of time, as opposed to someone emailing saying, I need new pickups for my Les Paul. That's just not a question I can answer right away. Well, tell me about this, tell me about that. So this was kind of like refining all the conversations we used to have. And, it would be a 30 or 40 email chain that I used to have to go through and dig through and be like, okay, where are we at? Does he like a low whine pickup? Does he like a hot pickup? This kind of, it's 3-4 questions, is it? And it kind of condenses it down. And we really just take that time. I take a couple hours a day on those usually myself, just to make sure that I can answer those questions as good as possible. But it does save us time.
So what are the questions besides tell me about your guitar?
Yeah, so tell me about your guitar. You can attach a picture of your guitar. So a lot of times that helps for us if we're recommending maybe a cover type or a look for that because some people don't know. They send us a picture of their Strat and they're like, well, what would look good if we did a loaded pickguard? And so we can suggest, so yeah, let's try a covered metal humbucker in your HSS set or whatever. So it's about your gear, it's about your style preferences. So they can actually just kind of write out like, well, here's what I feel like I'm missing. Here's what I feel like, I would like to sound like, some of the stylistic preferences. Yeah, I really like John Mayer. And so I've got the Strat. What pickup model should I choose?
I bet you never get that one, by the way.
No, not very much. Yeah. So, but it helps us. That gives us like okay, that maybe wasn't designed with a specific artist in mind, but it is that purpose for the set is to like be a bluesy rock set. So in that case, they said John Mayer or Stevie Ray Vaughan, I would say, well, you want our vintage custom Strat set, which is kind of a stronger bluesy to bluesy rock kind of set. And that's exactly what it will work well for. And so it helps it be easier. The customer is really happy at the end of the day, and it actually helps us sell our own stuff a little bit better too, because we kind of get we sometimes we call it like the prescription. We write the prescription for the ailment basically. So it's like the Porter version of WebMD or something like that. It's like, oh, well, I'm having tingling in my arm, and okay, well, you need a new set of Strat pickups, or whatever it is, right? So that's kind of the way that we treat it. And really it is like, it's been really cool and a lot of great conversations. People have been willing to give their phone numbers, which is very, very cool. And people love to talk. And some of those conversations can be kind of long. Some of them are just really, really cool, but just talking to musicians and, hey, what are you trying to do? What are you going for? Kind of like, Trey, what I did with you. I don't know that we talked on the phone, but we did a lot of email back and forth.
For anybody that's thinking about doing this, please do that, because it almost, for me, I think I sent you like, hey, here's what I'm doing. I might have mentioned the guitar I was putting them in, but I'm not even really sure that I did. I think it was just, this is what I'm looking for. I know I need a humbucker size, and just what do you recommend? And the conversation was almost over too quick, because you're just like, oh yeah, this is what you want. It's like, okay, cool. Do you want to hang out?
Yeah. Like speed dating for pickups,
For pickups.
Like, get rid of those things and move on. We'll help you.
But it's a really cool experience, and I wish that I had that years ago, because I've been swapping out pickups more than anything else. I mean, I bought a lot of guitars and traded a lot of guitars, but the guitar has always been for me the feel, and the pickup is more the utility of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I can have a guitar that I love, but if I go from playing worship stuff to playing hardcore, like, I need a different kind of pickup, and I want to still have the same general feel, but going from something that extreme to is a pretty big jump. And when you focus so much on one particular thing, like I do from the majority of the time, to then have to switch and go, okay, cool. So now all of my focus is, an AC30 and a huge pedal board, or something like that. And I need to have a humbucker that goes in a Jaguar. Like, I start to overanalyze and lose all these things. So it's really awesome to have just kind of a sounding board to go, okay, this is what I need to fulfill this specific job or skill set. And the fact that you can do that effortlessly is most likely, I'm guessing, just because you've been doing it so long that you kind of just know. You're like, yep, this is what you need.
Yeah.
Like you said, here you go. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, when we try to, we put so much effort into the development of the pickups, and we really don't talk about that enough, probably, like how much time is put into the thought behind the winds and the magnets and the number of turns and all that stuff. Because it really is, we want to sell something that actually is, like I said before, is gonna fill that purpose and fit that need. And that's really, like, at the core of who we are. And that's I think how we're able to kind of like serve the customer best. I mean, we don't want people to just be like unhappy with what they get and want to send it back. I mean, obviously it's like we're not Amazon or Walmart. We really can't afford to do that.
Right.
But I think a lot of people lean on like legendary stuff. It's like, well, this is the most accurate PAF possible, or this is the the closest to the real deal, like late 50s Strat, early 60s Strat pickup. And
Right.
we kind of like cut all the fluff out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Has always been one of my things, because I don't like getting into really hypey gear. Sometimes I almost like turn the other way personally sometimes, where it's like, yeah, it might be really good, but it's just like, the snake oil or the unicorn dust, that kind of thing. It's like, does it sound good or not? Is it going to work for me or not? Kind of just thinking about the average musician, and they really want to know that, because maybe all they have is $200 and they just don't want to screw it up, and I've been in that situation so many times myself, where you buy a pedal and you're just like, yeah, I just bought this because it was popular, and it really doesn't work for what I was actually trying to get. So we're trying to serve those people who are genuinely looking for that missing link, I guess, if you will.
Well, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, going back to the thing that you were asking before, Jet. It's almost like although you have created this library of pickups that you love, it's more like the Porter sound is the sound of the artist's need.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have your own spin on all of these different pickups, but it's not just as simple as, yeah, you sound like a PAF guy. It's there's just more to it than that, which is really, really nice. And oh gosh, how was I going to say this?
Use your words.
I think that the best musicians, or maybe not the best, that's really subjective. The most innovative or influential musicians weren't trying to chase someone else's tone. They were just trying to get the sound that they had in their head out.
Yeah.
Or in cases of, like, you mentioned Jimi Hendrix, just used what he had and create and use that to supplement the tone that he had in his fingers and stuff. I mean, Jimi Hendrix tone is great, but what made Jimi Hendrix the coolest was his arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the tone just kind of gave that a platform to be heard, as opposed to, I want to sound just like Eric Clapton, or I want to sound just like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I really feel like the kind of the Porter difference, if you will, is helping you find your individual sound, not just chase the sound of someone else.
Well, and I think it's really cool that you're willing to take the that you're willing to take the time to work with somebody, because everybody that's been a guitar player for any length of time at all knows what maple sounds like, or mahogany, or ebony. You know what that does to the sound of a guitar. If it's hollow, if it's a neck through, we all kind of get that. And then the mojo comes from the pickups, right? I mean, that's where you suddenly take that same mahogany and maple sandwich and make it sound vastly different from one end of the spectrum to the other. And if people don't realize that just because it looks like a Les Paul, it doesn't have to sound like a Les Paul. You're there to go, what do you really want to have as your playing surface, and what do you want to have as your tone? And let's find a way to get both those things to happen. And that's really cool.
Yeah. We started our business, I guess we kind of went more full time, like during that real estate crash, the 07, 08, it was like, yeah, let's take a jump into a gear business at this time. That would be really a good idea. Let's just do it. Let's go for it, and one thing that helped is that no one was buying new guitars at that point. I mean, not very many people were. But what was happening is they were modding their existing guitars. They're like, well, I'm a musician. I got to keep tinkering. I got to keep buying gear. Right. But they were like, well, let me just fix that, Mexican Strat that I've got in there. Let me just like make my American Strat sound that much better than I can. And so that actually was a really helpful thing for us at that time. And we're kind of experiencing some of that same thing. I mean, this is a whole different situation than that, obviously, because it's for everyone to deal with. But that whole, like, we literally say, like, we've prevented a lot of guitars from going on the market because of the fact that people just love them and they're going to keep them. And that's kind of cool. Like, for us, it's like, well, that guitar was meant to be so much more, and we can help with a small part of that. Not always, but sometimes we can. really turn a guitar around. For sure.
Well, a mid-price guitar and a high-price guitar, oftentimes the difference is just the amount of time spent finishing it, because wood is wood essentially, but it's really the electronics and the hardware. That's where the big expense comes in and a lot of the big variances. And man, if you put a set of boutique pickups that you believe in a guitar, you suddenly feel this sense of ownership beyond what you had before. You know, I mean, I used to build hot rods and motorcycles, and, you know, we'd have guys bring a bike in and say, well, this is what I really want it to look like. And we would change it to that. And suddenly you could see their sense of passion, to use a word we've used over, increase dramatically for the thing, just because now it's tweaked, it's customized, it's not cookie cutter, it's not what anybody else is going to have. And that's one of the coolest things about guitars, is that you might not be able to swap the neck, you know, if it's a neck through, but you can sure swap the pickups and change the entire guitar, and not just how it sounds, but how it feels. And that's a big thing too, because the pickup has so much to do, and the amp has so much to do with your playing enjoyment. I mean, that you can have all the resonance in the world, but if you can't get that resonance to come back at you, it doesn't mean as much. So I think that you're thinking about that kind of stuff is providing a huge service to the guitar players out there.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's like one of those things where I want to make an impact on the industry, and we have. I mean, it's like we went to NAMM for the first time this year, Winter NAMM, and just being at the show and kind of like, you know, we didn't have like lines of people at our booth or anything like that, but we had a stream of people saying, hey, I got this from you 10 years ago, right? You know, I really love this guitar. And, you know, some people are like, do you remember making this for me? I'm like, no, I don't remember. You know, like I can't remember anything past, you know, a couple years, obviously, but just being there as an in-person, and we're sitting here in our shop and kind of hiding in our cave and making guitars and pickups. And we send a bunch of stuff out every week, and we just don't know where it goes. A lot of times I don't get a chance to really even talk to, you know, someone like Trey. It's like, they just order on the site and we fulfill the order and they go on their way. But meeting those people and just having that conversation, it's like, wow, we really have done some cool stuff in the industry, and we don't really realize it sometimes. You know, it's like,
it's hard to say at that level. Like when you're still got your head down, you're building, you're innovating. It's kind of hard to see the impact that you're making. I mean, anytime that we'll go play a show in, I don't know, Indianapolis, we'll have somebody like, man, we've been listening to like your last 3 records for, you know, however long. And our immediate thing is like, why, how?
How could you do that?
Yeah. Like, I didn't know that anybody else knew about us. But that's the cool thing about kind of this stage of everything, is that you are making an impact. I mean, even if it's 1 or 2 people at a time. I mean, the last thing that I'll say that's a, you know, a shameless promotion for what you've done, you know, in my case is just recently we started doing all of the kind of the COVID series worship gigs, where we're pre-recording worship and using it on Sunday mornings or doing live streams of that. And every one that I've done with the Jaguar that I have with the wide range in it, they go, man, what the heck are those? And I'm like, oh, they're, you know, Porter wide range humbuckers. Like, no, that's not a wide range humbucker. Like, it can't be. I'm like, no, it is. And that, like, that for me is cool, that I kind of get to be on that head down level with you guys of, yeah, these are cool because you just said that they were cool. Now go check these out.
Yeah.
I got you. You already like them. Now go check them out and buy them yourself.
Yeah. Well, and it makes a difference to us too, to have that. Like, if you're happy, we all are going to talk about, like, so I love mountain biking, right? I'm going to tell my friends about mountain biking. I'm not going to be able to go get a mountain biking endorsement at the shop. I'm not going to be able to, you know, the local shop, we walk in and be like, you know, I'll tell all my friends about mountain biking, but right. I'm going to do it anyways, because I love doing it. And the same thing with guitarists. And when we're inspired by something and when we love something, you know, it's like I was telling you about Tom Anderson guitars. I mean, just love those guitars. I mean, they're awesome. And then you get to know people behind the company, and it becomes like, this thing where you're like, man, I just love that. And it is about branding at the end of the day, but it's still more about that customer experience. Because word of mouth has still killed every other marketing campaign that we've done. And I think the businesses that last, again, it's just like, you know, the early days of like Taylor guitars, and how did they even get to the point they are now is because enough people picked one up and were like, man, this thing plays really good. Maybe I should get one. Maybe I should consider getting that, you know, and that's really how it spread. That's really, you know, I like the fact that I can't really put my finger on one thing that sort of just like changed the course of our business. You know, it wasn't like, you know, some famous person played the pickups one day and then we just took off from there. It's really just been kind of grinding it out and helping those musicians. And that's still fun. I mean, every time we get those emails, it's like, that's why we do what we do. And even on these tough weeks, you know, sometimes where you're just like, this is a brutal time in the music industry. It's like, you get those and you're like, okay, I'm having a good day now, you know, no matter what.
Right.
So what is the, just for the folks listening, what is the email and the website that people should go to for information about Porter Pickups?
Yeah, so just porterpickups.com, and you can email us through there. You can try that pickup chooser. If you haven't tried it, there's no obligations. There's you can choose to sign up for a newsletter or not. You don't have to sign up. You know, there's no forcing of anything. Basically, you don't want to give us your phone number, you don't have to. To be honest, it's a little bit easier to just jump on the phone call. We're not very hardline salespeople at all. We're not going to back you into a corner and make you buy something. We're basically going to sit like we did with Trey. We're basically going to say, like, you gave us this information. This is what we think will fit you best. And then you can still go research. If you're one of those researching types that just needs to watch every video on YouTube and every sound clip, you can go do that. Some people will go straight to the cart button and you know, buy a set. Other people need to kind of do that research, or maybe they're not quite ready. I mean, we get these people that are you know, needing to save for it, or right now is a time where people are home and maybe some people have lost their jobs and they just want to kind of plan for the future of when they have some money to spend on gear again. So we're happy to help that too. We're not going to be disappointed if you don't buy. We'll probably give you, you know, a follow-up or two after a little while, but for the most part, we'll just kind of leave you alone after you, you know, because I don't like when people hard sell you on stuff. I don't like it. No one really does. So why should we do that as a gear company? And especially with something as cool as guitar, it's like, I don't want you to, you know, think guitar pickups are stupid because of the way that I respond to your, you know, your requests or whatever. So
I talked to this guy and I came away thinking pickups were just stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going acoustic.
Yeah, there'll be a few of those guys here and there just because it's like, those are the guys that hang out on YouTube and troll all day. You know, that happens, which is fine. But we're just trying to be helpful and figure out how to serve those customers. And then we know that it's going to pay off for us because, you know, I never like being pushed. Like Trey, you're talking about like trying to sell these high-end custom guitars. I mean, a lot of those guys are pretty interesting clients, I would assume, in the way that they have a bunch of information when they come in, and sometimes you just need to educate them and say, like, this is my experience as someone who does this. You don't have to believe me, but this is my experience.
Right.
And
I mean, it's pretty much like a physical version of what you do. It's most of the time the people that I talk to are just like, hey, I don't really know what I want. Tell me what I want.
Yeah.
And I'll go, okay, cool. You know what? It's the long-winded version, the old school kind of version of what you do in the email, where I go, okay, well, you know, what do you play? What do you love? What makes you want to play more? And then we go from there. So it's very, very similar to that same kind of
until you get to a point where you know a guy so well, you just send him the picture of the guitar as it comes in going, you want this? Oh, yeah, I do. Oh.
Yeah. You ruin people's pocketbooks all the time, don't you, Trey?
Yes, he does. Yes, you do.
Just one pocketbook. Yeah, I can send it as soon as we get a Sparkle guitar in. Doesn't matter what it is. I just snap a picture and send it to him, and he goes, "Oh man."
I am a sucker for the Sparkle.
That's awesome.
Now, for people that don't know what Porter pickups sound like, and obviously they're all different because he's got a million different models, but the thing that I've heard consistently on all the ones that I've played have been two qualities that I really have looked for a long time as a combination of pickups, and it's been hard to find. They have a clarity, and I don't mean a sharpness or a brightness, but a clarity, but they also have this deep richness, and it's not overly fat or overly warm, but it's got this fullness at the bottom end. So it just always feels very satisfying. I'm sure you'll agree with me, Trey, just always satisfying, no matter almost how you said anything else. The pickups always, I'm always like, oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. That's great. That's perfect. You know, everything else, I feel like I plug something in, I have to tweak a little bit. And every time I plug into Porter, I'm like, it's like you were in my head and knew what I was looking for. And there it is.
Maybe I am.
Well, it's like through the fact that there's I typically think that clarity and note separation are kind of synonymous. And I feel like when I'm a very visual person in my head. And so like when I'm imagining playing a chord or something and the notes being separated, it's getting bigger, it's expanded. And like through that bigness, I feel like a lot of times you think, oh, well, it's big, well, it's got to be muddy, but not really. Like when you get that articulation and note separation to it, and it's still big, and then you put gain through it, and it's like it weaves all together, and you're like, well,
it's
done.
very balanced. There's no frequencies that are popping out as too heavy that you feel like you have to EQ out, or they're over resonating with the amps or whatever. It's just like they just sound very even and balanced, but not vanilla. Lots of character, and I kind of feel like more of the guitar comes through than on some pickup designs. I can't say enough good things about them. They're just really spectacular pickups. We try not to have anybody on the show that we don't believe in, and so this one was a no-brainer for both of us. It was like, well, yeah, if he'll come on, we'd love to have him on.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm glad you guys had me, and yeah, we just tried to, I always think about like, growing up a Strat guy, if you will. I guess the PV Predator counts as a Strat, even though kind of wasn't sort of a Strat, I guess.
We're going to nod our head sideways and let you slide on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of what it is, right? And then so going into like, I remember the first time my friend had a Les Paul. And so being like only Strat really at all for a little while, it was like playing a Les Paul. I was like, what is this thing? It weighs 1,000,000 pounds. Let me go to the neck pickup. And then I'm like, oh, what is that? It was just like muddy and flubby and all these things. And so I've never forgot that part of it when I was, starting to design pickups. So the clarity thing is actually really important, because if you can get that clarity to start out with, you can actually use those tone knobs on the Les Paul if you'd like, whereas a lot of times you might not want to. So the neck pickup, there's so much sweet stuff going on there. Getting the clarity back, you're just opening yourself up for a lot of really good stuff. And definitely like that. And articulation is always important, because you really want that pickup to respond to everything, to the resonance like we talked about, but also like if you need something that's going to push your gear, if you like to live on the edge of breakup, or you've got a pedal that you just want to send it over the top, the pickups definitely kind of keep your voice in that realm, I guess, and then you can kind of go forward with that.
And what do you think is the most important in the design of the pickup that creates that? I mean, if it was easy, I feel like everybody would do it.
Well, yeah, that's
sorry, I don't know if that's a trade secret, and I don't want to.
It turns out it is. Oh man.
Yeah, no. So I actually call it I consider pickups like pizza. Okay. All right, so like pizza, there's you take a pepperoni pizza, there's like 2 or 3 ingredients, whatever, a couple ingredients, right? You've had a variety of pepperoni pizzas that are anywhere from amazing to the worst thing you've ever eaten, right? All of us have had some terrible, not even stuff that you stick in the freezer, even if it's like all the way up from that to a really bad chain pizza or something like that. But then you have I guess maybe what you would call a boutique pizza, if there's such a thing. But something that's every single ingredient's really quality, and there's not really much difference in the way that it's made and that it's built, but the quality of the ingredients and the composition of the ingredients makes for something that's more spectacular than something that is mass produced or generic. So we are always picking like really good wires, good magnets. It's the relationships of the winds and the wires. We'll do some winds that that the notes will jump out quicker. If we change the wind, it'll actually jump out quicker. So like the wide ranges, I think that you have, Trey, they're kind of the wind is for the notes to jump out quicker, but it's overwound to bring in more low end, but it's Alnico rod magnets to keep some clarity involved. So there's 3 things going on there at once with that pickup, and it doesn't sound like any other wide range on the market.
Right.
So that's kind of the way that we approach that. And the pizza thing really makes sense for everyone, because I don't know anyone that doesn't like pizza. I guess there's a few people, but we all know that like there's really bad pizza and there's really good pizza. Right. And that's what we do is like the pickups, there's really only a small amount of ingredients, but we're making sure we're choosing the best ingredients. We're actually putting it together. We're winding it with a really specific purpose. And we're basically kind of like almost doing an audio engineer thing, saying, okay, this is probably going to go in this guitar. So maybe we need to make sure it has enough low end. Gotcha. Maybe we need to add, 1,000 more turns to bring out the low end for the EQ. Maybe we need to put a less aggressive magnet in there so it doesn't pull on the strings, so it doesn't get so boomy on the overtones on the neck position. So things like that, kind of, like I said, we don't really do a good job of talking about all the stuff that actually goes into the creation of the pickups, but we kind of just let it speak for itself, I guess, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah, that's kind of the way. That's kind of our basic philosophy, but it is the pizza. I like the pizza thing because it just.
You're making me hungry, man. I just gotta say I'm jonesing for some pizza now, but whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jet, do you have anything else to add? I know that you're just hanging out there at the shop, Brian. Don't want to keep you from going home too late. But if there's anything else you want to add, Jet, or anything you want to say,
I had one question I wanted to ask, and I feel bad asking because I feel like I should have looked it up and know the answer to it, but I'm going to admit that I didn't. You've mentioned several times the mini humbuckers, and I used to have a 78 Les Paul Deluxe with the mini humbuckers, which by the way was heavier than a cinder block. Great sustain, but oh my God, you paid for it. But it had a great sound in the neck position compared to my 78 standard, which did not have a good sound in the neck position. So those mini hums did sound really good. Do you have any mini hums in a full humbucker size case?
I don't. No, that's something. Yeah, there are. So our mini humbuckers are actually kind of a shrunken down version of our classic humbucker. So they're like a 10-15% less version of the classic humbucker. So if
I
you're
never see anybody have a mini humbucker in a full case, and it seems like the mini hums are always made as a size constraint rather than as a sound reason. So here's my suggestion. I'll buy a set if you make those.
Yeah, it definitely could be done. I mean, it could be done in a custom housing kind of deal, or shrink the bobbins down, that kind of thing. There's really not a ton of size difference with the mini humbucker. Everything's kind of just jammed in there, and everything's shorter, obviously, on all the dimensions. But construction-wise, it's very much the same.
Let's say, Jet, I know that they make like pickup rings that will resize the shape for minis.
Oh, I know, but I'm talking to the pickup manufacturer who could actually do it, dude. It would be a good time to do something cool with the pole pieces, or you could have some that were scooted one way or the other rather than right down the middle. It might be slightly different. I mean, it's another area of flexibility, and I think there's a lot of people out there that dig the mini hums.
Definitely. Yeah, and a lot of people are missing out because they just haven't tried them. Or
don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
And the way those originally came around, once again, was really out of necessity of, hey, we've got all these parts, let's use this. Not we got this idea for a sound. So it's kind of like the Hendrix thing. The necessity created the tone, but it ends up being something we really like. I mean, what would Thin Lizzy be without half of that sound being mini hums?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Thinner Lizzy. No, Thick Lizzy. They'd be Thick Lizzy. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. Well, you can't end on a better thing than Thick Lizzy, I don't think. Can you?
No, that was it. That was the highlight, definitely.
Once you got pizza on your mind, you just started.
I know, really.
Yeah, I know. Like, oh, we gotta go. What time is it? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's really been a pleasure, and we've all learned a lot. And I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be suddenly calling you and emailing you going, hey, any pickup manufacturer who will actually talk with me and work with me to come up with the right answer. That's very cool, because you can't go into a lot of shops right now and try stuff. So this is awesome that, somebody's willing to work with you.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do it. And thank you guys for having me on. It was a blast. It's nice to just sit and talk gear. Sometimes, like I said, we're always in here. We, probably for you, Trey, it's like you get in to the shop and you got to figure out how to sell some guitars that day. And for us, we've got a sheet of customers that are looking for something. We've got all these projects, we've got emails, and sometimes you're just like, you walk in and out, and I'm like, I'm walking past all these guitars, and I haven't played it all today.
Yep.
And people will ask me like, hey, Marcy's so cool. You just got all these guitars. I'm like, I kind of play a little bit less than I have in a long time because, my job is building the stuff, but I'd rather be around this than not. So but I can't forget to continue to, my guys do such a better job than I do of just, picking stuff up and playing. Usually I'm like, well, yeah, it works. Time to move on to the next thing,
But I have a good relationship with my boss that every once in a while, we'll be working on stuff on the computer, especially during all of this. And we're just kind of, eyes at the computer for 4 hours at a time. And I'm just like, man, I got to go play something. I just got to hold a guitar in my hand because I work in a guitar shop, and otherwise what's the point?
And I edit podcasts all day, so all I'm doing is hearing the people or myself talk about gear. So then every 6 hours or so, I got to go, okay, I'm going to go plug in an amp, play for 20 minutes, get my yah-yahs out, remember why I like this, and then I'll go back to working on people talking about it.
Yeah, nice.
The passion is still there for all of us, and that's really cool.
Definitely.
And for people looking for a super quality product in every way, aesthetics, tone, and clearly the ethos behind it, I try not to have any podcast where I don't say the word ethos. So there you go. Nice. Porter Pickups is highly recommended from Gear and Gigs.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks everybody. For Trey Hawkins, I'm Jet Stone and Brian Porter. Everybody, you have a good one.
Yeah.
So glad you could join us for another episode of Gear and Gigs, the music podcast. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. And stick around, watch another video, listen to another podcast. Till then, we'll see you next time.